Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Felis Mengus, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mere in the Shire, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Jason Hornsby, JMails24, Unamento, Iron26, Endless, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. And with that, I'll hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set it for today's live show.
Good morning.
Okay, so there's hardly anybody here, so I might as well just start doing what I was going to be doing today anyway. And it'll spill into the live show, I'm sure. So this is the truth of nature of this reality. Truth of the nature of this reality. Eric Debay and Owen Benjamin. That's the name of the video by John Thor. So what I'll do before anything else is stick a share link in the live stream chat so people who do toggle along when we do cover this live can see that that's what we've been covering in the pre-show. No other way to share it at this point, obviously, having not published this as an after show. So why are we covering this, right? John Thor's a friendly and he's a good guy. So's Owen Benjamin and Eric Debay. I'm one of Eric's Patreons currently. I like the guy, right? A lot of people don't. I do. So with that in mind, why am I covering this? So much nonsense gets associated with the subject of Flat Earth. I want to address it. Now, from the bat, right off the cuff, whatever you want to call it, this is covering Walt Disney's 666. Absolutely sod all to do with Flat Earth and the measurements thereof. But here it is, right at the forefront of this video. Now, it's in essence a Flat Earth video. So why are we talking about Disney and 666? I have no idea, but that's what's being covered.
603 score of 6.
Won't let that bit play out just in case that gets me a copyright strike. Yeah, I can actually hear it now. Let's see. Yes, I can. Right, let's spin on past this bit. Whirly well straight.
603 score of 6.
Discovering the truth in a world full of lies is no small task, and not nearly as simple as it may seem.
Actually, that's wrong, and that's what I'm basically covering this video for. From the first sentence, I disagreed from Eric Debay. It's not as simple as it seems. Actually, quite the contrary, it's too simple. That's what I'm being told currently. Your arguments aren't long enough. They don't drag it out. They just cut straight to the chase about how Earth's measured flat. In all instances and without exception, people need more debate and more discussion, and you end it too quickly. Those are the things I'm literally hearing, which is the antithesis of what Eric Debay just said. Now, what do I mean? I mean, it's made to seem really, really complicated, but it isn't.
Most people are so naive, gullible, and trusting that their standard for finding truth is as easy as turning on the nightly news.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm going to agree with most of what Eric Debay says in this video, because as a general sentiment about life in general, not necessarily flat Earth, that's really basic. Earth is just measured flat, and it's really basic. It's really simple. When we get to the evidence that's suggesting there's a debate about the subject, you'll see exactly what I mean. But this bit, just talking about general normies and their normal general behaviour, yeah, they think that they're getting the truth of the world from putting on the news, which is sad.
The news anchors present current events in straightforward, one-dimensional terms, offering little to no supporting evidence or historical context. little to no impartial analysis or discussion of alternative viewpoints, and downplaying or omitting any legitimate skepticism. Most school textbooks operate the same way, treating complex subjects with a broad potential of perspectives, possibilities, and competing evidence, as if there is only one easy, correct answer.
Damn, I was on mute the entire time. So this, within a minute of the video being on, is demonstrating a flat Earth prerequisite. So we've got 140 feet, 42.6 meters above the water. What does that mean? It's a height measurement, altitude, elevation, whatever you want to call it. It's perpendicular to a plane of reference. For both sides of this distance, which hasn't been labelled yet, another flat Earth prerequisite. So we're into setting the stage and whistling past the flat Earth prerequisites. Height requires a flat Earth to describe it. But we're going to be talking about the height, talking about the distance, and then presenting it like there's an argument to have about whether or not there's things that should be seen or not. Now, before we've done anything, we've measured Earth flat twice. So in my view, this is where I'm told off for not having a long, lengthy enough argument. The argument ends here. The minute we measure Earth flat with a perpendicular elevation with respect to a plane of reference, that's a flat Earth prerequisite elevation measurement. That's it. We've measured Earth flat. That's it. There's nothing more to discuss. For this argument, which there isn't, to continue in a perceived manner, we have to accept that Earth can only and is only being measured flat. Here it is. A flat Earth prerequisite elevation measurement. 140 feet above the water. Both sides.
The theory of evolution, for example, is taught in school textbooks as settled science.
So again, debate's talking about evolution. Fair enough. Feel free to cover evolution as a nonsense subject. I don't mind. But it's nothing to do with flat Earth. Absolutely nothing to do with the prerequisites that are on screen. This distance measurement is a horizontal distance.
And students are simply required to remember and regurgitate the only option they are given on.
So on screen it said 16 miles. That's a horizontal linear flat distance. That's how it's measured. That's how it's applied. That's how it's put into the Earth curve calculations that we're about to go through. So we've got a height measurement and a distance measurement, both requiring a flat plane of reference to measure and detail. Horizontal, linear, flat, horizontal distance, and vertical, perpendicular to a plane of reference. That's altitude or height. So two flat Earth prerequisites being used. They're on screen for a couple of seconds. Nobody mentions that this requires Earth be flat. Now, at which point, why do anything else? Why punch those numbers into a stupid begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator to suggest that there should be a distance that we should see to? It's nonsense. We've already measured Earth flat twice. Why do anything else? Go ahead, Neil. You keep interrupting me, which is irritating me. You've only just got here and you've interrupted me twice before opening your mouth.
Forget it. Go ahead.
Well, I've finished now so that you can talk. But you're opening your mic while I'm in the middle of saying stuff because you're keen to talk.
No, I didn't. I tried once and I stopped when I heard you. Don't piss me off. What I was going to say is what they're doing now is they want to know how big the Earth is. So on 24/7, they held up some computer image, and it looked like a flat ocean and a white sky. And they were asking me, can I get an elevation angle from this? So I told them I don't do celestial navigation. I'm not telling you if I can or I can't. I'm telling you how the process is done. Now, the reason why they wanted me to say yes or no is because they made the screen bigger and they turned it into a blue ball. Like they were trying to get me with a gotcha. All I'm trying to say is that's all I have because you can't deny the measurements. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's no worries. Yeah, exactly. All they're trying to do now is create a situation where there's a gotcha, a blue sky and an ocean. Well, what are we measuring the altitude of? Was there a star or the sun in the picture?
No. All they wanted to do was, once I said yeah, they were going to blow the picture up and show me a ball.
Wow, what a great gotcha. Meanwhile, distance measurements are horizontal and linear, height measurements are off sea level, surface level. For parallel eye level, that's how functionally Earth is measured. So if you're measuring an altitude angle to a star, you'll need a star. If you're measuring one to the sun, you'll need the sun. If you're measuring it to the top of a mountain, you'll need the top of the mountain to be able to be visible to measure the altitude angle and apply the distance horizontally to it for trig. That's how we measure Earth. Rise over run, same thing applies for the valleys and the heights of all things that we map the topography of Earth with. Rise over run uses horizontal distance. All distance measurements are horizontal. That's why the maps have got a flat scale. It's all measured and applied flat, like this Earth curve calculator that we're about to go through. But if you can ignore how flat we must measure and are measuring and are applying those flat measurements in an Earth curve calculator, it just seems like there's an Earth curve calculator dispute. Well, there isn't. Doesn't matter if you want to believe after the application of the flat Earth measurements to the Earth curve calculator that you've got an Earth curve. You've still measured Earth flat to get there. Whirly well.
Papers. Likewise, the heliocentric globe model is presented in every public schoolroom and textbook as gospel truth, with no discussion or analysis of geocentric flat Earth material.
No need. I mean, if my opinion was to be prevalent now, everyone would say, well, why would we need to compare and contrast it when all the measurements that the globe Earth requires to believe in it are flat?
All evidence and arguments are omitted completely.
It's not an argument. I'm not arguing with people. This on screen, if you want to believe there's curvature or you want to believe there's no curvature based on an application of height off surface level perpendicular to a plane and distance horizontal and linear, then you're an idiot. There's no argument about whether there is or isn't curvature. Both measurements being applied in this formula are flat Earth prerequisites. There's no ifs, buts about it. There's no debate. What, you don't want them to be a linear horizontal distance measurement? Then you've got nothing to put into your calculator. You don't want it to be perpendicular to a plane for altitude. Well, then you've got nothing to apply in your calculation. Well, okay, you do want to apply a flat Earth measurement in your globe Earth calculator. Then we measure Earth flat then, don't we? We being everybody.
Locally.
Downplayed as historical.
Locally is any measurement that you can do. You can only measure locally. Now, locally might be 100 miles if you're talking about a mountain in the distance that you're measuring horizontal linear distance to it for trig for an application of an elevation angle to determine its height. That's perpendicular to a plane of reference. It's level between you and the height of the mountain if you're going to apply trig. So locally just means how we measure.
I agree, but that's what they were telling me locally. And I was like, listen, there are no flat surfaces on a globe. You just blew that picture up and turned it into a globe. Now I want you to get your measurements from the surface of that globe. You need to go to the equatorial plane. Was that correct on that?
They can apply angle measurements that are through the glorified protractor. Like if you look at the latitude lines on a globe, they're degree measurements. Well, what's the degree of? Well, the angle that you measure from the equatorial plane. Well, you can't measure from an equatorial plane. You can only measure from the surface, and as you already identified, you can't get an angle from a curve. Even if you did, they don't. They apply it from a tangent plane that isn't the surface. So you're never going to get GPs. Their lines are out in space, and it's only a single point alleged to be the surface that then gets transposed into the globe Earth at the equatorial plane, so the angle can work through the globe as a glorified protractor. You can't measure in hell. Right, I'm going to see if I can get this video to play again. Just constant whirly whirl now, of course.
Historical ignorance and demanded to be forgotten about, or else you will fail. True skepticism, critical thinking, and
all they're showing on screen now is when they say trees disappear about 25 foot. Well, so if we can take a 25-foot flat Earth perpendicular prerequisite height measurement, we can suggest at what point, with angular resolution, we will lose distance in the things in the distance. Like, who cares? We're only going to ever apply flat Earth prerequisites to get these heights to reduce our angular resolution limit. And back to when you actually understand how we're utilising perspective in this regard, you get the conspiracy cats quote. Well, I'll give you a flat Earth for that. What, the angle? Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth to describe perspective. That's the only way it can be described, with elevations off surface level and angles. But you're not doing that with curves. You're doing it with flat, planar, angles. That's how it works. Hence, quote, conspiracy cats, now culture cats. I'll give you a flat earth for that. You've got no other option. You can only measure Earth flat for perspective. This is a glorified perspective hijacking called Earth curve calculation. Now, 10 years ago, it might have seemed smart to figure out how the Earth curve maths worked and start putting horizontal linear distances and perpendicular height measurements into an Earth curve calculator to argue about how far we should or shouldn't see. Now, 10 years later, it seems absolutely ludicrous to ignore how flat Earth must be measured to suggest how far we should or shouldn't see and argue about it. It's pathetic.
And in-depth analysis cannot survive such a regimen of unquestioning.
What's to analyse? The distance is flat. Do you or do you not understand how flat and linear and horizontal distance measurements are? If you don't understand, then you have the problem. You don't understand how flat and linear horizontally measurements of distance are. That's your problem. But there's nothing to debate. There's nothing to discuss. It is what it is.
Obedience. Modern media outlets and school systems present information.
So now we've got a flat earther explaining that this is no curvature, it's actually compression. Why is this flatty having to explain why things in the distance do what they do? Why are we having to explain how perspective works and compare and contrast curvature with a begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculation that utilises flat Earth measurements with a non-curved version with perspective and then explaining it with compression? We don't need to do this.
In such a dumbed-down, one-dimensional, dictatorial fashion that most people no longer even recognize.
This annoys me greatly. This is the most tower you should see. Why? Because you've put flat Earth measurements of height and flat Earth measurements of distance into a calculator that says how far you should see in an orthographic view. It's not even comparable to the calculation.
Critical thinking as being an intellectual activity. Try presenting alternative evidence or an alternative viewpoint that...
No, there's no alternative. Nothing's going to compare and contrast to how the measurements are actually applied in both instances. If you want to believe you've got curve, you're going to need a flat Earth. If you want to believe there isn't curve and start explaining things that you don't need to, you're not charged with explaining why things in the distance squash up, disappear from bottom up or otherwise. That's not your task. They've hijacked it. But when they hijacked it, they still need to actually apply real-world measurements. And when they do, they're flat. So at the point that they take flat Earth measurements, you've won. Let's not put them through curve calculators and say, well, I say it's because of compression. This is idiotic.
That challenges the mainstream understanding of most any subject, and watch what happens.
Not almost any subject. We're talking about flat Earth here. We're very specific. We're very nuanced in terms of what we cover with hyperspecificity. How Earth is, was, and always will be measured flat. In this instance, with linear distance, horizontal distance, flat distance, and perpendicular height. That's flat 90-degree surface and the elevation from that surface. Level, 90 degrees to it, perpendicular to it. Altitude on both sides of the flat distance are with respect to sea level, as measured. So we've measured Earth flat 6 ways from Sunday, and we're going to argue about how, if we apply the flat Earth measurements in a calculator that says there's curve in an orthographic view, it's actually seeing too far. Garbage.
Rather than being perceived as a keen, astute observer for pointing out problems or inconsistencies in mainstream beliefs.
No, there's no problems. There's an application after the fact for a belief that people have. Now, that I'll agree with the debate on, right? The general understanding skips past the flat Earth measurements, but now we're at a stage where there is no disagreement between us and our compadres on the globe Earth belief side of this discussion. The discussion is, do you understand how flat Earth gets measured? Because you better do. You're applying it in your Earth curve maths to believe there's a curve after measuring Earth flat. It's either understanding it or not. That's it. Hello, everybody. Well, we've got the
You will
early
more
word.
likely be seen as stupid and kooky for using your critical faculties. Rather than being receptive, patient, open, and interested, more often than not, people become unreceptive, impatient, closed off, and uninterested in hearing any information that runs contrary to their preconceived notions.
Now that I can fully get behind. Preconceived notions have already been cognitively processed. at little expense because it's been repeated. He's already covered that. It's on the desk at the school and then repeated ad nausea all the way through your adult life. Therefore, reinforcing cognition that's there and cemented permanently in your brain by repetition only, not through cognitive processing, not through measurement of your own volition, just through repetition. Now, at that point, when you offer the contrary seeming opinion, it's going to be met with a disagreement because it's cognitively expensive to process. Whereas we should be agreeing with them. Oh, yeah, I totally understand how you believe you're on a ball. Emphasis on belief. You take the flat earth measurements of horizontal linear distance and perpendicular height, and then you plug them in an earth curve calculator that tells you that the distance you just measured flat isn't flat. I mean, that seems silly to me, but I and you both use flat earth measurements. At which point they can either disagree with the measurements they require, much more cognitively painful than just disagreeing with some flat earther that says Earth's flat, because we've looked at things in the distance that should be too far. No, the distance is flat. You need that flat Earth distance. Do you deny the flat Earth linear horizontal distance you're applying in this maths? You do? Well, then that's very stupid. You haven't got anything to believe in a globe with anymore. Oh, you do accept the flat Earth horizontal linear distance you're plugging in. Well, then you've measured Earth flat. There's no discussion or debate. Cognitively painful is the only thing we can now offer them. Pain. Because it's painful to understand and accept how flat Earth must be and is measured by everyone always. Then we get lines like, we don't only measure Earth flat from Simon Dan, or I'll give you a flat Earth for that from Conspiracy Cats. Or you've got a really good sex life from Red Rhetoric. I mean, these are the things, or where are the guns? I point out to Toon, you're measuring Earth flat, Toon, with elevation angles off a flat surface. That's how angles work. That's all they are. You got no guns here. Where are the guns? You lied. That's the response. Or Red Rhetoric. You've got a really good sex life. Look at all these dildos. Yeah. But we still measure Earth flat, though, don't we? You, me, and everybody. There's no exception. Come on, Whirlywell.
The masses have been trained that intelligence is as easy as memorizing and repeating whatever the current majority consensus is on any given topic. Similarly, they've been trained that skepticism is synonymous with stupidity, and that people who dare question the consensus and present evidence that runs contrary to it must just be morons who didn't get the memo that
Yeah, I'll agree with everything he's just said. Nothing to disagree with there.
this subject has been deemed beyond reproach. If you doubt this, just try researching one of the many subjects society has decided are so beyond skepticism that having an opinion contrary to the majority gets you labeled as being a quote-unquote denier.
Right, let's have a look at what's on screen. 4 foot off a flat plane, 3 foot off a flat plane, 2 foot off a flat plane, 1 foot off a flat plane. So we've got 4 flat Earth measurements then, perpendicular to a plane of reference. Height. So why are we talking about where the tree line is? And ignoring that 4 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot and 1 foot are all flat Earth measurements. They're perpendicular to a plane of reference. They're altitudes. So if we ignore them, we can argue about where the tree line should be. No, we're measuring Earth flat. That's the end of the discussion. Now, I don't give a crap if people tell me that I'm ending this argument too quickly. It's because there isn't one. There's no argument to be had. You either accept that 4 foot is perpendicular to a plane or you don't. That's it. More Whirlywell. It's going to be 10 times worse in the live show.
Such as vaccines, the Holocaust, COVID, or climate change.
Nothing to do with flat Earth, any of them. But in my humble opinion, feast of nonsense subjects given to us so we can be described as kooky, as we look at prerequisite flat Earth altitude measurements and ignore the fact that you require a flat Earth from, and then talk about bloody COVID, or the Holocaust, or vaccines, all unrelated to the subject. Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, it does have something to do with flat Earth because they're telling you, look over here, look over there, look everywhere else, but where you're looking.
Okay, so what you're saying is when the magician waves his left hand so you don't see the ball palmed behind the right, it has some relevance because it's the distraction from the right hand. The left hand is distracting you from the right, therefore relevant for us to point out that it is just a distraction. But overall, the left hand waving the wand has nothing to do with the right hand palming the ball. Does it, Neil?
No, but I see your point. But to say it has nothing to do with flat Earth, I think is a stretch, because I think it absolutely has to do with flat Earth, because it is the most important subject, in my opinion.
Okay.
If you begin spouting information that could pigeonhole you as potentially being a denier of such blasphemous, unspeakable...
No, what am I denying? Am I denying the 4 foot off a perpendicular? Am I denying 3 foot off a flat Earth? Am I denying 2 foot off a plane of reference, or 1 foot height in elevation terms described from a flat plane? I'm not denying any of this, and neither will my opponent. I just offer them the cognitive pain they will have to face when they and if they deny the measurements they rely on, because these measurements, the ones that are being discussed by a flat earther on screen, are their measurements. They need these measurements to believe they're on a ball. So don't get them to deny them, just get them to accept them. Because if they reject them, they've got no measurements. If they accept them, Earth's measured flat. That's it. There's no discussion to be had. Only the pain of acceptance when it comes to flat Earth that they'll have to, quote, give you. End quote, conspiracy cats. I'll give you a flat Earth for that. Why? If it was ball-shaped, you'd just measure it ball-shaped. You can't. It's only measured flat. What's that? Where are the guns after having pointed out that you've measured Earth flat with elevation angle measurements? That's altitude angle. Altitude being off the surface level. Yeah, you're going to have to accept your own measurements as being off surface level to be angles, or don't. I don't care if you reject your own measurements because they're flat, but they are flat. What about altitude in general? Heights off the surface level. Yeah, you can either accept that they're off the surface level, sea level, if you want an actual measured Earth-wide measurement of level, or you don't. I don't care if people reject their own measurements. It just means they've got no measurements anymore. Once would they accept them as flat Earth measurements, then that's all there is, flat Earth measurements. Everyone's measuring Earth flat and there is no exception.
subjects. Watch how quickly someone steps up to censor you. In truth, the real denial in such instances is that of these accusers to actually hear out the claims, read these books deemed so heretical, and to research and honestly...
So this guy's got the target height at 140 feet, and then he's giving you your height in feet from his position. Yeah, both are with respect to a plane of reference. They're both altitudes. Off the same plane. That's how it works. Both heights are off sea level. When he went on Google Earth, presumably, to get the height off sea level, how do you think it was measured? Off sea level. So we need a sea level to measure the heights, and they're the same on both sides. They're both off a plane. Is he going to deny this if you're a baller? You can't. Denial means you've got no measurements. It's that simple.
Consider the arguments presented. As F's...
Has anything that I've said thus far been an argument? As in, I'm going to argue with a baller about how the height can be anything other than off a... It's not an argument. It must be accepted on both sides, or they don't have any measurements. I don't need any. I don't give a crap how far things in the distance disappear anymore. It is utterly inconsequential to me. I'm going to look down the camera to say this. I couldn't give two craps how far things disappear, because the how far is measured flat. The minute you give me a horizontal linear distance measurement or an altitude perpendicular to a plane of reference, you've measured Earth flat. Do you think I give a toss about debating whether or not it should or shouldn't be seen? So saith the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator when you plug your flat Earth measurements into it. I don't care. I'm not going to argue with you because it's not an argument. The minute we've got the measurements, Earth's flat. Exactly as measured now, previously, and in the future. Earth will, was, and always will be measured flat by everyone, always and without exception. There is no debate.
Nathan,
Yes.
if you're at a magic show and you're starting to point out all the magician's tricks, what happens? The magician gets angry, doesn't he?
So did the audience.
Right. Okay. You're right about that. The audience does get upset because they want to see a show. And I think that's what's happening now. See, we used to just whistle right past it. And now because we're not whistling right past it and we're putting our finger right on it, wait a second, you're doing this from a flat plane. Now that's got everybody upset, including flat earthers, sorry to say.
Yeah, I know, Neil. You're absolutely correct. Flat earthers are annoyed at me because I'm not allowing the debate to continue. They want the debate. They want to argue with opponents and seem intellectually superior to ballers when they show them that they know the Earth curve calculations better than they do and can demonstrate with a visual representation from their own camera how far they should or should not see. Yeah, that's just you masturbating mentally, flat earthers, and not recognising something that's very obviously before your very eyes. And I'm making you feel stupid, aren't I? By pointing out that you already had a flat earth measurement, you had the win right at the beginning of your argument. Your argument kind of seems stupid, and that makes you feel stupid, doesn't it, flatties? The fact that you hadn't noticed how flat earth was being measured the entire time makes you feel stupid? Good! Feel stupid, you didn't see it. Neither did we. We just have the humility. Whoever's off mute in G+, go on mute. Can you hear me talking? Have the humility to recognise Earth is being measured flat from the outset by everyone always and without exception. If you can't understand that, then that makes you stupid. We have the humility to recognise how stupid we were for not seeing it. I spent hours and hours debating with ballers 10 years ago about the Earth curve mathematics and just never noticed that we were inputting flat Earth prerequisite measurements into it. Now I've noticed. I'm not going to be told that, oh, well, we need to continue with the debate because you've got cognitively used to debating in that way. Lazy. You're doing what I've talked about previously from, admittedly, that Irish girl whose name I can't remember, where cognitively it's easier to go through the things that you've already processed mentally again and again and again. You've already gone through this process of figuring out how far is too far on a ball, therefore Earth's flat, therefore you want to argue that way because you've already learned how to do it. Right. Well, don't be so lazy. Recognise how flat the measurements are and recognise how you have missed that the entire time. Yeah, it does make you stupid. Now, you're going to have to accept that. It was right in front of our eyes the whole time and we just never saw it. How dumb are we? Yeah, that's right. But now you know, you can just point out, well, that's a flat Earth measurement. That's linear distance. What's that? Travelling north? That's a flat Earth direction. What's that? Altitude? Off surface level? It's a flat Earth measurement. Everything that we measure with respect to Earth is flat and always was. We just didn't notice. Yes, it might make you feel stupid, but that will pass. Earth's measured flat.
Scott Fitzgerald noted.
Who was it that was off mute? What did you want to say, whoever it was? I'll pretend it wasn't whoever it was and just brush past it.
It was. I just logged in, Nathan, and my mic was unmuted.
No worries.
Yep.
Did you have something you wanted to add, though, anyway, one deck?
No, I've only just jumped in, so I'm just seeing what's going on.
Fair enough.
Thought it was me.
I didn't think it was anybody. It could have been you, Jardo. It could have been anybody.
Noted. The truest sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain two contradictory ideas.
There's not two contradictory ideas. So when we put in horizontal distance linear into the curve calculator, is that contradictory to me saying Earth's being measured flat with a horizontal? No. Both sides require flat Earth measurements. So there's no contradiction. There's just the application of flat Earth measurements to believe you're in a ball on one side. And on my side, because I'm being told, like I say, by flatties, that that's just too quick. You're not dragging it out enough and turning it into a debate. Yeah, but meanwhile, both me and my opponents need flat Earth prerequisite horizontal distance and elevation off a flat Earth. Both of us require these things, so there's no holding two positions simultaneously. I don't need to hold a position where we measure Earth flat because it's measured flat, and we measure Earth flat because it's a ball. Now, one is a contradiction in terms, and one is just how both sides measure. So there's no contrasting opinion that I have to hold both sides of. Yeah? It's just a measurement of Earth in all respects to be flat.
Simultaneously. Or as Aristotle said, nothing is more challenging than the ability to study, debate, and think through a concept.
Good.
I mean, just saying also, all these terminology is referencing how Earth is measured flat, and he's using these terminologies. The other thing to consider as well, I mean, he's looking at the horizon there. For some reason, in the heliocentric model, the horizon's defined as a physical location, but it's actually never been defined as a physical location. So you shouldn't even go down that road of arguing the case of that, because it's never been defined as that. It's an apparent location.
Yeah, the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or to be redundant, appears to meet the ground.
Yeah, so it's never been defined as physical, and people are arguing about, should we be able to see past? So we don't even have to go there with that fact anyway.
Without immediately accepting or rejecting it. This is the logical and necessary first step for anyone genuinely seeking the truth. Like a detective attempting to solve a case, honest investigation into every clue, each piece of evidence.
What's this at the bottom? It says right there. Is it eyesight level? Can you see that? Can you see eyesight level? Yeah?
Yes.
Right. Distance to object. That's a horizontal, linear, flat earth prerequisite. Both of them are on screen! In the tiniest letters not being acknowledged. Yeah? Why? Well, because they require... This is earth curve maths, isn't it? Yeah? Distance to horizon, where are you getting that from? The distance to the geometric horizon, as just explained by Wandek, is a calculation based at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height off a flat earth with parallel eye level. The distance is horizontal and linear. The height is off surface level. Must be so for a parallel eye level to even exist. So you've got 3 flat earth prerequisites on screen in tiny little letters. Nobody's acknowledging. Everybody just wants to whistle straight past the fact that we're measuring earth flat to do this, and then argue about how far we should or shouldn't see. It's sad. But because they've learned how to argue about how far we should or shouldn't see and punch these numbers into a calculator, they feel so very smart that when I come along and go, what are those numbers you're punching into your calculation there? Those are flat earth measurements, though, aren't they? So that's where the argument ends. None of this is necessary. Oh, but you felt really smart putting the numbers into a calculator and then matching them up with your photography. That made you feel tough. Yeah? If I make you feel dumb, tough. Feel dumb. You missed it. You didn't notice. You're using flat earth measurements and so are they. They'll rely on them just like I'm pointing them out as flat earth measurements. They'll rely on them to move past them and violate them. As a contradiction in terms go, the argument isn't an argument anymore when you both need flat earth measurements.
And all possible perspectives must be considered without bias. If you haven't done your due diligence in deeply researching and considering...
I have, and the conclusion I've come to is there wasn't ever an argument. The only trick was to make it seem like there was one while everyone used flat earth measurement. That's the real trick. Not hiding a globe earth horizon. There isn't one. It's not physical. It's per the definition. We just went through it. What we did was use flat earth measurements and ignore them whilst arguing about whether or not those flat earth measurements mean it's a globe. That's what we did. 10 years of intense study got me to the point of realisation that, my God, it was in front of us the entire time. All of the measurements are flat.
Every angle and alternative before closing a...
No, the horizon shouldn't be anywhere. The distance to the horizon, if you put it through the earth curve mathematics, is 1.22 times the square root of your measured height off a flat earth. That's what you get when you understand through deep study what they need to apply to their calculation to violate the base measurement of a flat earth.
A case, you may be making a big mistake, believing in some bunk, or accusing innocent people. This means scouring...
Well, we should stop. As flat earthers, we should stop accusing our opponents of being stupid. I'll accuse my own of not noticing the flat earth prerequisite measurements that I'm now pointing out. Yeah, you are stupid if you didn't notice. If you're a flat earth believer and didn't know for sure and without a doubt earth is measured flat, no, now I'm telling you. Earth is measured flat in all instances. It's required by both sides of this so-called argument that there isn't. There never was an argument. The trick was to make it seem like there was an argument. Make it seem like it was about 9/11 truth and COVID and jabs. That's what the trick was. Make us seem like stupid idiots while we ignore all flat earth prerequisites used by both perceived to be sides. Divide and rule, right? Both of us should lean into what we need to measure. Horizontal, linear, flat earth prerequisite distance measurements, and flat Earth prerequisite perpendicularity for height. Those are the measurements of Earth. They'll never change. That's what we've always used. There aren't any exceptions. So agree with your stupid globe-believing idiot opponents if you want to perceive them to be your opponent. Okay, I accept your use of flat Earth measurements to believe you're on a globe. I'll believe with you. But it's just a belief. We actually measure Earth flat. We. That's everyone.
Libraries and the internet, reading multiple books and articles, watching documentaries, listening to interviews, attending lectures, and assimilating all the information available on a subject. Defenders of the heliocentric globe theory, for example,
Not a theory. Theory in this context, when talking about Earth and phenomenon, is what comes after the application of the scientific method. Step 1, observe natural phenomenon. Now, if you want to claim that things disappearing is a phenomenon, then fine, I'll accept that. Very weak, but there we go. Step 2, formulate a cause and effect reasoning based on suppositional cause of the effect observed at step 1. That's called a hypothesis. It's an if and then statement. If A, a suppositional causal influencer, then B, the naturally occurred phenomena that you studied at step 1. Step 3, actualize your prediction. Vary and manipulate your presumed causal influencer to see if it causes the effect or not. The not is the null, the zero difference result. If A, not B, which sits alongside the alternative in the hypothesis. Only one can be proven true. You can't both cause and not cause something at the same time. Therefore, upon variation and manipulation of said presumed cause, it will either cause the effect or not. After experimentation, you form theory. So in this context, Dubé's wrong with his terminology. Theory is an application thereafter when validating with experiment the suppositional causal influencer after observing natural phenomena.
will often boast that they have done their due diligence in researching the geocentric flat Earth model.
I don't need to research any stupid geocentric globe Earth model or any other model for that matter. I just need to look at how Earth is measured. Yeah, I did all this crap for 10 years. The nonsense cockwaffle of looking at arguments and how they work and how models compare, and I'm absolutely and totally tired of it. Don't need to do any of it. Now, that's due diligence, though, so I will agree with Eric Dubé in this regard to get to this stage where you go, it was really obvious the whole time, how dumb are we? We just never noticed how flat everyone was measuring it to apply their bastardization of these flat Earth measurements. We just never noticed. But it had taken 10 years of quote-unquote due diligence to get to this stage. But now I can just tell the world, not ask, not debate, tell them, we measure Earth flat.
But have never read a single book on the subject. Believers in evolution and creationism alike often fall prey to this same bias. Either they believe creation because of their religion, or believe in evolution because of modern science.
Another false dichotomy. Again, nothing to do with the subject of how Earth gets measured. You can tie it, as much as Christians may want to do so, to the subject of flat Earth, because biblically it is associated. But in physical, natural measurement terms, it isn't. It's a lot more basic. You can claim that the reason they've hidden the flat Earth measurements in a so-called debate and created a heliocentric bastardization of those measurements is because they want to hide God. But in reality, we just measure Earth flat. It's far more basic than initially met the eye. No pun intended.
Now that's more like it.
Hello.
Hello.
Zed.
Hello, hello. You all good? Haven't heard
Hello,
much from,
Nathan.
haven't heard much from Discord yet, so can we get a hello from somebody in Discord? It doesn't matter who. Anybody.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Duncan. Thank you for doing that.
Good
Much
morning.
obliged. Hadn't heard anything as yet from Discord, so good. You can hear us, I assume. You can hear all the people from G+.
You guys sound good.
Jolly good. Good to hear it. Now, we've been covering a video today, which is by ultimately Eric Dubé, but the actual publicist in this instance is John Thor. So what I'm going to be doing is sharing a link to John Thor's video in the live stream chat, so you can pop along to John Thor and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Now, the video is called The Truth of the Nature of This Reality, Eric Debay, Owen Benjamin. And it typifies pretty much everything I dislike about flat earth, quote unquote, arguments or debate that is currently perpetuated into the so-called etheric nature of our reality as though there's a debate to be had. There isn't. What I'm going to be pointing out over the next hour, that's to say during this live show, is how flat earth is being measured and applied to a bastardization of said flat earth measurements to infer that earth has sphericity after measuring it flat. Now, in the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, I've been criticised quite heavily for ending debates too quickly by pointing out how both sides use flat earth measurements. Ergo, pointing out there isn't a debate and that everybody, without exception, measures earth flat. And I've come to the conclusion that, like with anything that's cognitively expensive to process, if you've already figured out in your own mind how you will argue for a flat earth, and you haven't spotted that your measurements that you apply to a curve calculator to suggest that we see, quote, too far, is already in effect and working and functioning and gives you an opportunity to make yourself seem smart, then me pointing out that you're using flat earth measurements in your earth curve calculator to show how earth curve fails, therefore earth's flat, is pretty garbage when the measurements are, were, and always will be flat. Because that ends the argument immediately. Either you accept the flat earth prerequisite distance measurements, linear and horizontal in nature, and flat earth prerequisite perpendicularity for height off sea level, or you don't. If you don't, you've got nothing to work with. That's to say, nothing to bastardize into a curve. Or if you do, you accept that Earth's measured flat. Now, if you're a flatty, you might be annoyed at me because you might feel stupid for having not spotted it already, but I don't care. Feel stupid you didn't notice how flat you had to measure Earth in all respects to even have this argument. There isn't one. The whole point of the game of having flat earthers out there on YouTube in the first instance was so we could talk about clone centres and Mandela effect and 9/11 truth and vaccines. So we could look stupid when whistling past the flat earth prerequisite measurements that we always were using. And so were our opponents, what do you know? So there is no debate. If you're a baller, you either accept that you're measuring Earth flat with horizontal linear distance, or you don't. I mean, you can, like Red's Rhetoric, just point out that I've got a great sex life. That's a fair response, I suppose. Or if you're McToon, you can point out that there's no guns in Antarctica in response to me pointing out that you've got a flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurement that you're utilising. You can do that. You could say, I'll give you a flat Earth for that, like culture cats, formerly conspiracy cats, when utilising a flat Earth for perspective measurements. You can do that. You could say, well, we don't only measure Earth flat after measuring Earth flat 1,000+ times like Simon Dan. You could measure Earth flat with elevation angles for a 24-hour period in Antarctica like Dave McKeegan. God, I have to keep remembering that he's too stupid to use his own equatorial mount, the dumbass. But nevertheless, you could, in a limited, dumb way, measure Earth flat for a limited period in Antarctica. Down in Antarctica? No, south. What, south? A flat Earth direction. Go look at a compass. Now, the fact that we, as flat earthers, have collectively whistled past every single one of these prerequisites for 10 years just makes us stupid. We were useful idiots, here to prop up the idea that we're conspiratards, talking about clone centres and Taylor Swift being a clone, or talk about the books, Barrington Bears being changed, right? Mandela effect. Did he die in jail? No, this has nothing to do with the subject of flat Earth. Maybe in more recent times talking about Tartaria and melting bricks. Yeah, we sound stupid if we do this. Or talking about how fast the sun goes, like Big Ball Dave Weiss is doing. None of which addresses the flat Earth prerequisites we've been using the entire time. And that was the whole point. To ignore what must be used by everyone in all circumstances. Flat Earth measurements. So we are going to be covering Eric Debate on John Thor's channel. I have put a link in the live stream chat. I'll put another one in right now. Please let John Thor Or if you want to go let Eric Debay know, fine, it's entirely up to you. But in this instance, it is a John Thor video that we're covering. But let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a positive comment that lets him know that we are covering his video, and I am funneling people to his channel. And hopefully, if he ever does a video about me, which he does typically, he has in the past put out videos about me specifically, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, that is, he'll put a link to Nathan Oakley 1980 channel as a positive response. If, on the other hand, he takes umbrage with me saying, this video's garbage, John Thor, it's old school, and as I've already done in the pre-show many times, there's loads of flat earth prerequisite measurements that are being applied to the argument. And we don't need to have an argument if you understand that you've got flat earth measurements in there. Especially if you understand that the globe believers are using the same measurements. Because there only are one type of measurement of earth. Flat. Anything anybody wants to add before we get back into the video?
Yes, I would. What if I was, Nathan, what if I was a baller and I was to say, okay, so I'll give you a flat earth, but on this flat earth, if I plot 3 points, it does not equal 180 degrees. Therefore, earth cannot be flat and it must be a sphere.
So if I take 3, what? Distances?
Yes.
The distances will be horizontal and linear, won't they?
Absolutely, I said.
So
I'm
why on
assuming
earth would I entertain some numpty idiot who takes horizontal distance measurements and says, if I take these 3 horizontal distance measurements and apply them to a curved surface that's been derived from minimum elevation angle measurements to Polaris to give us a radius that we can convert to sphericity, put a map on and pretend we measure angles from the equatorial plane in hell through a glorified protractor we call the globe. When I put a map on that glorified protractor, we've got curve angles that don't add up to 180 degrees. That's idiotic. The distances are horizontal. The angles that created the globe were flat. So this is idiot speak from nonsense idiots on the globe side that like using our flat earth measurements and then showing us how their curve angles don't know. Who cares? You're still using horizontal distance measurements. You've still got a globe that's got these little lines on it with degree measurements on them. Yeah, those degrees are measured from their equatorial plane if you want to apply them. That's a plane of reference that is the only way of utilising these prerequisite flat earth angle measurements to Polaris. It's called latitude. On your glorified protractor, you call a globe that you're putting a map on and saying that you've got curve angles that don't add up to 180. You don't get angles from curves at all, you complete idiots. Meanwhile, the distances are horizontal and linear for any application, and that's how they're measured. There are no exceptions.
It's a double whammy for them, really. Because, as we pointed out in the pre-show, the horizon has never been defined as a physical location. It isn't a physical location, so there is no distance to measure to it. Not only are they doing that, but then they also use flat earth measurements to obtain the distance to that, which isn't a physical place, which is absolutely absurd.
Yep.
They use the line of sight above surface level, parallel to each other, to measure a distance to something that's not physical. I mean, it's crazy.
Yes, but the distance is applied, as you've just pointed out, with a parallel eye level and surface level measurement, horizontal in nature, at 1.22 times the square root of said observer's height in feet off surface level. So we're going to need 3 flat earth prerequisite measurements to have this argument. Now, like I said in the intro to this live show, if you want to whistle past all of those flat earth prerequisites so you can have an argument, then you're an idiot.
Seldom do people really delve deeply into both, giving adequate time, effort, and energy to understanding each before coming to conclusions. This is the first step to discovering the truth, collecting and considering all available information about a topic from every perspective and without bias.
Perspective is measured flat. Quote, culture cats, formerly conspiracy cats. I'll give you a flat earth for that. End quote. Culture cats, formerly conspiracy cats, when talking about perspective. Yeah, because we're dealing with angles off surface level. That's how perspective is going to be measured when applied to Earth's surface. So you will have to, quote, give you a flat earth for that. Perspective. Like all measurements of Earth, they're all flat.
Once you have acquired a broad and nuanced comprehension of a subject, having researched all evidence and perspectives, the next step to finding the truth is a process of elimination
No, it's a process of measurement. It was always will be measured, and is currently being measured flat by everyone who pretends there's an argument.
In negating falsehoods. What this means
is we've got a distance on screen that's a flat Earth prerequisite. Is it being highlighted that this distance measurement is flat, horizontal, and linear in nature? No. But it will be applied to Earth curve mathematics in that fashion, having had it not pointed out that it's flat. But we will have the argument about whether or not we can compare and contrast how much we should or shouldn't see. It's garbage. Now, you can moan and bleat about how me saying that this is a horizontal linear distance measurement, it is! And how that ends the argument. And you've spent a long time learning how you can apply this horizontal linear flat Earth measurement in an Earth curve mathematics that requires it be horizontal, linear and flat, to argue about how far you should or shouldn't see. And you want to feel intellectually superior by going through that process in a very lengthy fashion while you sniff your own farts, having ignored how flat Earth got measured in the first place. Yeah, I'm just going to laugh at you idiots. These are the flatties I'm talking to. If I see flatties doing this, taking flat Earth measurements and putting them through mathematics that bastardise the very measurement they start with, I'm going to laugh at you, call you idiotic. Now, people may not like me on the flat side, but I don't care. Everyone needs these flat Earth measurements. It doesn't matter if you're a baller or a flatty. The Earth, which is all that really matters here, is and was and always will be measured flat. That's how it's measured. We just didn't see it, did we? Oh, well, we can feel stupid for a little bit. But realistically, who cares if there's no perceived argument to after the fact? Once you've got your flat measurement, it's a measurement! Nothing else is required. Now, if you're a baller and you want to go, no, I don't want to use this flat measurement. Well, what are you going to use? You've got nothing then. Oh, well, I do want to use the flat Earth measurement. Well, then you've got a flat Earth measurement, Earth's measured flat. There's no discussion to have anymore, is there? Now, that's what people don't like. They want the discussion, because that was the magic trick. We can discuss this for hours and ignore how flat we must measure to have the discussion. Then it seems like there's a discussion, formerly called a debate. No, there isn't. Now, I'm going to end this immediately whenever I see it. 18 miles, you'll need a flat Earth for that. That's how it's measured.
Is rather than immediately trying to determine which among a given list of possibilities is the
No, there aren't any list of possibilities. There's only one measurement been put on screen. Did I see multiple measurements, one curved, one flat? Or was it just the horizontal, linear, flat Earth miles and kilometres? Was that all we got? What's to discuss? There wasn't any alternative on screen, Dubai. There was only one measurement, right? And it's horizontal and linear. Flat. Or you can kick out the measurement. I mean, I don't care. That seems very stupid. But meanwhile, we've only got one measurement. There's not a multiple choice, is there? There's only one measurement of Earth. It's flat.
the truth, it is better to first determine which options are definitely false.
Oh, options? Did anybody see any options on screen when the distance measurement was on screen? Speak now. No? Nobody saw any options when it came to the measurements? Was it just the one measurement then? The horizontal, linear, flat distance measurement? Was that it? Yes, because that's all there is.
For example, when it comes to events like the JFK assassination or the...
Then we're going to look very stupid, aren't we? As flat earthers, if we're talking about the JFK assassination. Who gives the tiniest of shits about this conspiratard garbage that has nothing to do with how Earth was measured flat, when on screen we had a flat Earth measurement? But if I can talk about how Taylor Swift might be a clone, or how Mandela might have died in prison, or JFK was all an inside job, then we sound like nutcases. And we ignore the flat measurements, don't we? That was the game. Yeah? The wand waving, we were given the wand. It was a wand with JFK and Mandela effect written on it. That's what we were given. So we didn't notice over here that the globers were using flat Earth prerequisite measurements to put through their curve calculator and say that Earth is a sphere. We didn't notice that the delineation of the measurement was applied to sphericity after measuring it flat for a radial value, with angles off a flat surface. Now, we didn't notice because we were too busy talking about whether or not Taylor Swift was a clone. Yeah? Sounding like complete idiots. That's what we were doing. Now the game's up. We don't need to do that anymore.
The 9/11 attacks, saying with 100% certainty exactly what happened, precisely how and why it transpired, and who is responsible, is...
Debate doesn't know the answers to any of those questions. At all. Yeah? Now, when I got to this subject, Flat Earth, having studied psychopathy and subliminal messaging, and then, what do you know, I find myself in something else that seems very conspiratorial and arbitrary. Like Flat Earth. Well, it wasn't, was it? It was just measurements. But suddenly I'm being told that I need to study 9/11 truth and figure out whether or not there were actually any planes going into the buildings or if it was all just CGI. I'm like, why? Why do I have to figure out if Taylor Swift's a clone? Or whether or not it's actually the case that Mandela did die in jail and we just all had the timeline changed? Why? Well, because if we're doing that, we're not focusing on how Flat Earth gets measured by our opponents. Are we? This enrages me. This is what if you're one of these flatties that find yourself in this arena talking about 9/11 truth, or mud floods and Tartaria, know this. It was always measured flat and you just weren't smart enough to notice. Now, does that make you feel stupid? Good! You are. I am too. I just have the humility to accept how stupid I was when I didn't notice how flat the measurements all were. Now I've recognised it and I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you how Flat Earth gets measured, because there aren't multiple choices on screen when we have linear distance measurements put on screen. There's only the flat ones. That's all we've got. That's all we ever had, and it's all we ever will measure in future. Earth is flat. Exactly how do we measure it? 9/11 truth my arse.
Is no small task. However, with even cursory research into these events, it is actually quite easy to debunk and discount the impossible official stories. A single magic bullet simply cannot strike one man in the head, then proceeding on to hit another man in the back, chest, wrist, and thigh, only to be recovered afterwards in nearly pristine condition.
Who cares about this bullet when on screen we've got a horizontal linear distance measurement and two altitudes that are with respect to the same plane of reference? There's 3 Flat Earth prerequisites going up on screen. That's all that matters, if we're a flatty. Who cares about the magic bullet? Who cares about 9/11 truth? Who cares if Taylor Swift's a clone?
Similarly, 2 planes simply cannot bring down 3 reinforced steel buildings due to jet fuel fires in under 10 seconds.
What are these little things on screen here? Oh, I wonder what these are. Let's have a little looky. Have we got distance to object? 28.07 or 28.97. That's a Flat Earth prerequisite linear horizontal distance measurement right there. What's this? Eyesight level? Eyesight level? So it's right there in the tiniest of writings? Yeah, that's why we all missed it. Yeah? Because the wankers, that's Flat Earthers, thought that this bit, in this bit of the screen, was the most important, didn't you? You self-absorbed tossers. You Flat Earth numpties. You thought that you with your P900 was more important than the measurements you were making that you got from Google Earth. Well, have a look at the elevation profile in Google Earth and you'll see just how Flat Earth is. And how they've measured it with rise over run with respect to a standardised horizontal plane of reference called sea level. Earth's flat in these measurements, but they're tiny at the bottom of the page and not even getting the slightest bit of recognition. Just whistle past like they're not even important. What's important is the camera work and my prowess when it comes to putting it through a calculator. You're all idiots, and I'm talking to flatties. The ballers, they're just ignorant. They didn't do, as Eric Debay puts it, their due diligence. But you did, and you still didn't spot it. So now I'm calling you stupid. Flatties. Didn't notice how Flat Earth was being measured when you had it right in front of your very eyes? Yeah, that's right. You just didn't spot it. Neither did I. Neither did anybody on my panel. Nobody noticed how flat we were always measuring Earth until now. So you can relinquish your stupid arguments. There isn't one. There's just the Flat Earth measurements. They're on screen. Is it multiple choice? Can you see any other alternatives on this screen? Or is it just the flat Earth measurements? Is that all we've got? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just one measurement of Earth as a flat plane. That's all we ever had. It's all we ever will have. Earth will always be measured flat.
Debunking the impossible official stories of these incidents is relatively easy and illustrates why arriving at truth through process of elimination is so effective. By first looking to negate false claims, rather than to affirm positive ones, the truth will come into clearer and clearer view until it is ultimately left as the only viable option.
That's what I'm doing. I'm making it not only the only viable option, it's already applied as the only viable option. It's already the only applicable measurement. Earth can only be, and always will be, flat when measured. So when I say it's left as a single option, one, not you can not have your flat Earth measurements because then you just don't have anything. It's what I call the rock and hard place position. Either rock, you accept the flat Earth prerequisite distance measurements and elevations off surface level, measured worldwide with sea level as an average. You can either accept those, rock, in which case Earth is measured flat, because it is. Or, a perceived alternative, you relinquish said flat Earth prerequisite measurements and say, I don't want to use those. Well, then don't. I call that the hard place. So you've got nothing then. No measurements to apply. Oh, well, I do want to accept the flat Earth measurements. Well, then Earth's measured flat, isn't it? So we're left with one option. But I get told off recently because one option doesn't mean there's an argument. Yeah, that's right. If there's only one option and everyone's using the same option and measurement of Earth as a flat plane, then there is no argument, there's no debate, and suddenly you can't seem intellectually superior to man across the desk from you, can you? But that's what you wanted, didn't it? You, flatties, wanted to feel special because you could use a curve calculator and go and use a camera. Well, those days are over. The measurements always were flat. You just didn't spot them. And if I make you feel stupid for that, good. You should. I did.
You're going to piss a lot of people off with this. But the other thing is...
Do I
there's a lot
care?
of
Will
people...
it change how distance is measured, Neil? If people who are flat earthers suddenly get annoyed at me because I'm pointing out that they were always using flat Earth measurements, will suddenly the Earth be measured any other way other than flat because I'm pointing out that we play into the divide and rule mentality when we start having debates that ignore how flat Earth gets measured? Will it change that, Neil?
No, but you know how the people are in the crowd? They get mad when you show the magic trick. They want to see the magician. They still want to debunk a globe, Nathan. What I want to say is we spent 6 years debunking the globe. We finally got proof of a flat Earth, and we're going to exploit that proof.
Yeah, but other people want to put those flat Earth prerequisites through calculations so they can feel smart and talk down to their globe-believing opponents about how we should see at this distance, says your curve calculator. But we actually see at this distance. Look, I can use a P900. Yeah, I don't care. Those days are over.
Sometimes a lack of evidence may leave multiple viable options, or make it...
It may, but in this instance it doesn't. This tripod's measured off surface level and so is the height of the target object. They're both measured off the same plane of reference. So we're going to need a flat Earth. There isn't a multiple choice. There isn't another option.
It's difficult to confirm exactly what happened. But through this process of elimination, it is always possible...
What am I eliminating? Give me the two options, one of which I can eliminate when we talk about horizontal linear distance measurement. Is there another option to eliminate? Or was there and is always going to be only one option? I'm not asking rhetorically. Is there another option to discount, anybody, when it comes to these measurements?
No, but they are talking about secondary order of measurements. I've had that thrown out there.
That's called calculations.
Yes.
What,
Yes.
the second order calculations after measuring Earth flat? I don't care.
To narrow down the possibilities.
Here it is again. What's this tiny little lettering with the word level? Absolutely minuscule. Yeah, you just didn't spot it, did you, flatties? Yeah? It was right there under your nose the whole time. In this case, in tiny little lettering.
And come to certain conclusions. The masses are not used to processing or receiving information in this fashion, however.
They don't have to. Just tell them that they're measuring Earth flat. And if they deny it, then say, okay, so you've got no measurements then. And if they go, oh, well, I still want to use the measurements because there's only one I can use. Well, then Earth's measured flat then, isn't it? Oh, well, I don't want to accept that Earth's measured flat. Well, you don't have to. I'm not trying to convince you. I couldn't give a crap. Go away and believe you're on a ball after measuring Earth flat. But now you know how your measurements function, don't you? So don't ask them or engage in debate with them. Tell them. Yeah, don't ask permission. Tell them. Like I'm telling you, Earth's measured flat. Now, you don't have to like it. People are currently approaching me to do debates, more so than they ever have in the past. Yeah? Time-wasting wankers that come along and suggest they're going to give me money, and then 4 emails later they don't give me a dime, eventually leading me to tell them to sod off because they're wasting my time. But I tell them in the opening reply, there is no debate, there's only flat Earth measurements. I'll happily come along to your show, if you pay me, and tell you what I just told my audience about how flat you require Earth be measured for your dumb ball belief. I'll tell you that. Unabashedly, that's to say I'll spit it right in your face. You require this only measurement that is the only measurement of Earth be applied to your dumb ball belief. And if you don't, then you don't have anything to apply. If you do, you accept on your knees that Earth is measured flat. Exactly as measured. That's not me asking permission. That's me telling you in no uncertain terms. Because there are no uncertain terms when it comes to this subject anymore. I'm making that explicitly clear to everybody. There's no ifs, there's no buts, there's no maybes, there's no debate, there's no discussion. There's just me telling you about how Earth gets measured. And there's only one measurement. Not multiple choice, not a choice of different options, the one to be discounted and one to be retained. There's only one. Earth is, was, and always will be measured flat.
However, because most people, pundits, media outlets, teachers, textbooks, and experts alike tend to present their claims in straightforward, authoritative, one-dimensional, positive statements.
Yeah, that's how I'll be doing it. One-dimensional, positive statement, because we've only got one measurement. So, unless you can provide me with an alternative, what else can I possibly present? Now, there isn't a need to present an alternative because our opponents already use these measurements, always and without exception. So if they deny them, they deny their own measurements, because we universally use one measurement of Earth, don't we? Horizontally, with respect to a plane of reference, perpendicular to it for height, horizontal and linear for distance. Parallel for eye level. Parallel for flight level. All measurements of Earth were, are, and always will be flat. So I'll be telling you in a very one-dimensional way that fact, because it's indisputable.
Without acknowledging alternative viewpoints or legitimate skepticism.
I'll ask again, is there an alternative to the measurements that I've presented that are at the bottom of this screen? Is there an alternative? Am I missing something? What alternative are there to be presented with and debate and discuss? There aren't any alternatives when it comes to Earth measurement. We only measure it in one way. Flat. Horizontal and linear in terms of the distance, perpendicular to a plane of reference for height. For a parallel eye level. For parallel flight level. For elevation angle measurements. For height measurements. For surface measurements. For distance measurements. All measurements. Sea level being the overall overarching reference. We've got Earth measured. It's been done. And there's only one. There's nothing to argue about here. There never was. That was the game. You all fell victim to it. You played the game that they wanted you to play when you started pretending to be intellectually superior to next man. Divide and rule. That's what the game was. And you, me, and everybody else around us fell victim to it. That's what we are. Victims. Meanwhile, we just measured Earth flat. Everybody. Everybody in the discussion that was perceived to be arguing, debating, and disagreeing, we all use the same measurements the whole time.
You
Yeah.
keep saying that, Nathan, but how big is Earth, Nathan? You keep saying it's measured flat. Okay, then how big is it?
Why would
That's
I
what
care
I was
how big
told.
it is? Do I care? Am I a cartographer? Do I care? If we're going to measure it, we'll measure the distance in a linear fashion with respect to sea level. And if there's any deviations, we'll measure that with rise over run, with a horizontal planar distance measurement to have the run be having the rise described with respect to. So why do I care how big it is? I'm not a cartographer. I do know how to apply a measurement that already exists and is used universally by both sides. So once we've accepted that Earth's measured flat, I get asked how big it is? No, I'll laugh at you. Oh, okay, well, you say it's measured flat, so how far away is the sun? I don't care. But you're measuring it flat with elevation angles. Well, where are the guns? I don't care. Who cares? Makes no difference to me that you perceive some slight from me when you find out Earth's measured flat. By you! Doesn't mean I've got to answer a string of questions about how far the sun is or how big Earth is. That does not follow after I point out that Earth is only ever measured flat. It just means that Earth's measured flat and you can like it or lump it. I don't become the arbiter of how far the sun is or how big Earth is, just because I've pointed out something that was always being applied to Earth by anybody who ever measured it ever, without exception. If you're Simon Dan measuring how the angle 1,000 times can be measured off surface level, and then disclaim, well, we don't only measure Earth flat. Well, you're measuring Earth flat. Well, how far is the sun, Nathan? I don't care. I wasn't the one measuring it off a flat Earth, was I? 1,000 times, Dan. Well, we don't only measure it flat. Okay, well, give me an alternative, because there isn't one. You want to show me any other measurements? Because you were measuring elevation angles off the surface level. What about perspective? From culture cats, formerly conspiracy cats. Well, I'll give you a flat Earth for that. Yeah, you're damn right you will. It's the only way you'll ever apply perspective to this flat plane of reference that you need for an angle to describe perspective with. So what's that? I need to tell you how far things disappear in the distance because you've, quote, given me a flat Earth for that? No, you were the one who was trying to apply these flat Earth measurements and suggest you were on a ball and disclaiming how flat you need Earth to be when you measure it. Now I need to tell you how far in the distance things disappear? No, I don't. What about if you measure Earth flat for a 24-hour period? For Dave McKeegan, other than him being stupid and not being able to use his own equipment, do I suddenly need to explain why there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica alleged to be there when travelling south? No, I do not. But you are measuring Earth flat with elevation angles to the sun in a limited capacity if you're Dave McKeegan, because he's dumb and doesn't know how to use his own equipment. Do I need to explain what the sun is? No, I do not. You are measuring Earth flat. You can like it or lump it. I don't become the arbiter of the truth of what the sun is or how big Earth is just because I point out how you measure Earth flat. What about Red's rhetoric, measuring 2,500 miles of flat horizontal linear distance so he can apply trig? So he can figure out how he perceives to know how high the moon or sun is. What? Well, because his trig fails, if it's not flat, I need to tell you how far the moon is. No, I don't. What's that, Reds? You've got a really good sex life, Nathan. That's not really a rebuttal. Same as where are the guns, or I'll give you a flat Earth for that. Or we don't only measure Earth flat. None of these are rebuttals. They're just excuses after you measure Earth flat. In this case, 4 ball-believing numpty clowns that are also victims. They've been using flat Earth measurements the entire time and they damn well know it, or they wouldn't be disclaiming how we don't only measure Earth flat, or I'll give you a flat Earth for that, or where are the guns, Nathan? After I verbally and personally point out how flat they are measuring Earth to them, personally. I don't have to explain how high the sun is. I don't have to explain how big Earth is. I just have to point out where you require Earth to be measured flat for your numpty ball belief to even start in this process.
In contrast, a genuine truth seeker will usually sound unsure, less authoritative, and more focused on making negative statements about the things that can be debunked and proven false. Imagine it like a
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll agree with Derek Bay wholeheartedly on that. So it seems more intellectually superior to say, well, I can show you how Earth is not a ball. Yeah? Sound familiar, numpty dipshit flat earthers? Is that you? Saying, well, I know Earth isn't a ball. Oh, how sweet. How'd you know? Because you applied flat Earth measurements to a curve calculator and showed how your P900 showed that was failing. after using several flat Earth prerequisites you ignored. Oh, well, how smart are you to say our Earth is not a ball? Yeah, how very 2020. Meanwhile, we were whistling past the flat Earth measurements everyone used the entire time, weren't we? Yeah, I'll say that with absolute dogged determination and utter authority. You measure Earth flat. Doesn't matter who you are, that's a fact.
Police chief at a press conference versus a detective in his smoky office room. People feel reassured by the positive, simple, straightforward, authoritative claims the police chief makes at the press conference. But how would they feel listening to the broader, deeper, more nuanced, and less certain claims coming from the lead detective being candid in his office? The detective would probably come off sounding less authoritative and convincing than the police chief, but ironically, his detailed explanations would be far closer to the truth. This is one big obstacle with truth-seeking and truth-speaking. Liars can confidently and bombastically spout their...
Go ahead.
Why do you need an explanation for how it's measured?
You don't.
their rehearsed lies with refined rhetoric and authoritative intonation that sounds positive, intelligent, and reassuring to gullible.
Yeah, you can overcome all of that, though, debate, right? If you know where the perceived opponent, in this case globe believers, in this divide and rule world that we live in, present an argument, so-called, to you about how Earth is sphere-shaped, if you're a flat Earth ninja, like everybody around me, you just look for where they require Earth to be measured flat. And then you point it out to them. That's what you do. Simple.
Ears. Meanwhile, genuine truth seekers honestly expressing themselves and attempting to convey their broad, deep, and nuanced understandings may ironically sound negative, unsure, and unauthoritative by comparison.
Maybe they do, and I'm calling those people idiots. Yeah, when you sound unsure in your potential skepticism of the ball, I come along and sound absolutely certain when I point out how Earth is simply measured flat for everyone, always and without exception. Yeah, that's authoritarian in terms of my delivery, isn't it? I'm telling you, not asking you. I'm beating you around the face with a wet fish of flat Earth measurements because that's the only way we measure Earth. Now, you can lump the fish you've just beaten in the face with. You don't have to like it. But that's still the same wet fish that I'm slapping you with. Because that's how Earth gets measured. I'll spit that fact with absolute authority. Because it's a fact.
Well aware of this phenomenon, 4 years after the JFK assassination, in 1967, the CIA circulated a now declassified memo, Dispatch 1035-960, advising CIA field offices to label alternative explanations as, quote, conspiracy theories, and to label their proponents as conspiracy theorists. The CIA wanted people seeking and speaking the truth about the JFK cover-up to be publicly perceived as untrustworthy and unintelligent. Popularizing the term conspiracy theorist was a brilliant way to make intelligent, diligent, passionate researchers be perceived instead as kooky, paranoid autists peddling mere theories.
Well, we're in luck because we're not speaking anything contentious when you say that it's measured flat.
Yeah, you
They
took the
measure
words
it
out.
flat too.
Okay, so carry on. Sorry, John.
I was just saying they measure it that way too. Everyone does, always.
Yep. So there's no contentious ability to label us as conspiracy theorists. When I say, so you say Earth's a sphere? You see this measurement here when you describe the distance to the geometric horizon? That's flat. Now, that's not up for debate. That's not contentious. That's a statement of absolute fact. So I don't seem stupid. Now, you can try and paint me as being stupid, like Red Rhetoric tried to do recently, right? He's got a really good sex life. Yeah, okay. But you still measured Earth flat with horizontal distance measurement at 2,500 miles, didn't you, Reds? What's that? You didn't? So your trick fails? Oh, you did? On your knees, son. Yeah, this isn't contentious. You're measuring Earth flat too. Yeah? You don't have to like it. I'm just pointing it out. How Earth gets measured flat, that is. By you, me, everybody who ever measured Earth ever. We all require it to be so. So there's no debate. There's no I say there's a magic bullet and you say that there was a man on the grassy knoll. There's just me pointing out the measurements that everybody uses. That's it. Nothing contentious whatsoever. You can disagree with these measurements, but then you haven't got any measurements. And there's only one to apply. A flat Earth measurement.
If there's nothing
fact of the matter
contentious,
is
then why
that
are
when
we
you-
being... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
If it's not contentious, then why are we facing such adversity from both sides?
Because the game was created to make it seem like it is contentious. People will say to you, well, what difference does it make if it's a ball or if it's flat? That's what you get as a reply. You're like, so in your mind, it's still contentious. There's still a debate to be had. And now you're just assessing whether or not if you fall on one side or the other, it'll affect you or not. My response, who cares if it affects you or not? Both sides measure it flat. Now, because both sides measure it flat, you can believe you're on a ball and you'll still be applying the flat Earth measurements to your ball belief. If you're understanding of the flat Earth measurements, there's nothing else to do other than people create the impression that there's an argument to have with you by asking you if you know how far the sun is. Now, their application of a sun distance will require they measure Earth flat to extrapolate and calculate where they believe the sun would reside, right up until the point that they actually need to navigate, and then they'll claim it's an infinite distance, violating their own calculations that they use flat Earth measurements for. Now, that stupidness is what they have to do if they want to exercise their belief after measuring Earth flat. Me, I don't need to do any of that. But the game is to create the idea of contention. There isn't any. Everyone's measuring Earth the same.
You gather evidence and debunk falsehoods through a process of elimination, arriving closer and closer to the truth.
There's nothing to eliminate. You give me a different measurement and I'll eliminate it. You know, you want to say that we've got curved distance measurement? We haven't. There's only one. There's nothing to eliminate. When you're left with only one option, what else can you do other than say, well, this is how we measure Earth. This is the measurement, right? Here it is. What's that? You want to say that it's not flat? Well, then how are you going to apply it to any calculation ever? You can't. Oh, you accept that it's flat. So Earth's measured flat then? Yeah, it is. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Truth, like a detective does, you will inevitably have several running theories of possibilities.
No, I haven't got any theories because that's a category error. That comes after scientific endeavours. Theory comes after experimentation. Experimentation comes after scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis. Hypothesis comes after observing natural phenomena. You observe phenomena, you formulate a prediction, you vary and manipulate your presumed cause to see if it causes the effect, then you form theory. This isn't that. There aren't multiple choices when it comes to Earth measurement. There's only the flat measurements. So there's no deduction, there's no detective skills. There's just look at the measurements. They're flat. That's it. End of argument. There never was one.
Labeling this natural process of truth-seeking as conspiracy theorizing makes this necessary step in discovering truth sound very much like the opposite. In reality, however, government conspiracies and cover-ups have been rampant throughout history up to modern day, and acknowledging that fact is...
To say on screen, research a subject and then uses logic and critical thinking skills to form an educated opinion instead of just blindly believing whatever they saw on TV. Meanwhile, Earth's just measured flat. Really simple. Not complicated in the slightest.
is a necessary step, giving us permission to re-engage our critical faculties when it comes to seeking and speaking.
I identify as a conspiracy theorist. My pronouns are told you so. Okay, I don't identify as a conspiracy theorist. I just identify as somebody who noticed that we measure Earth flat in all instances. after 10 years of researching nonsense cockwaffle about debates.
The truth.
People want to be sheep. They don't want autonomy. People want to be controlled.
That's a generalisation and stereotyping fallacy. Is this Owen Benjamin speaking? Sorry, do you speak for everybody, Owen Benjamin? So you're saying, I want to be a sheep, do I? No, I don't. No, that's a generalisation and stereotyping fallacy. So there's strike one for Owen Benjamin, stereotyping fallacy. Let's see how many more we get.
They want a shepherd. If you want to be a
I want a shepherd. Sorry, who's my shepherd? Beyond the Lord Jesus Christ himself, who are you going to call my shepherd? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking I'm sat here on my own without anybody around me. Obviously, I've got a panel of people and guests and Discord server and an audience. But in literal terms, I am sat here on my own telling you Earth is measured flat. That's not because I require a shepherd or leader or want to be a sheep. So your stereotyping fails. There, Owen Benjamin. Why are you doing this? Does it sound smart with your stereotyping fallacy? Very disappointing. Do you know for sure and without a doubt Earth is measured flat, Owen Benjamin? I'm going to guess no.
sheep to psychopaths, go ahead. I don't want to hear it here. Same shit that we've heard 1,000 times and debunked, but yet they still keep saying it.
Right. Another generalisation. Same shit that we've heard 1,000 times and debunked. What, quote-unquote, shit have you heard 1,000 times, and what, pray tell, have you debunked, Mr. Benjamin? Do you want to just go through that with us? Otherwise is it Ipsy-Dixit fallacy? It means nothing.
I've heard all your dumb arguments.
I'm sorry, another generalisation. You've heard them all? I don't think so. There aren't any arguments. There's only the perception of being arguments.
Raised with this bullshit. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college, all of it. It's bullshit.
Sorry, those are school levels as opposed to arguments, followed by you saying bullshit. This is mindless, nonsensical cockwaffle. Meaningless drivel from Owen Benjamin. Sorry, you didn't list off a load of arguments. You listed off a level of schooling and then said it was bullshit. So are you listening back with me pointing out how nonsensical your garbage is, Owen Benjamin, and realising how stupid and nonsensical what you're spewing actually is? Because it means nothing. Literally is senseless garbage that you're spewing. Doesn't help anybody. Isn't reiterating any arguments that you've said you've heard 1,000 times. Saying a school level isn't an argument that you've heard 1,000 times. Doesn't mean anything.
It's like they act like we're the crazy people. You sound so fucking stupid when you talk flat earth. 8 inches per mile squared? That's stupid, isn't it? No.
Right, 8 inches per mile squared is the derivation of a flat earth linear horizontal distance measurement and perpendicular height off surface level with a parallel eye level. 8 inches per mile squared is a derivation of the 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height off a flat earth measurement in earth curve mathematics. That's what you're talking about. Why are you, alleged to be a flat earther, talking about their use of flat earth prerequisites to come up with this abbreviation at 8 inches per mile squared? That's their argument that didn't really exist to begin with because it utilised flat earth prerequisites to make it. So that's what you've heard 1,000 times, yeah. The game was rigged. You didn't notice either, Owen Benjamin.
No, it isn't. That's the equation of the curve of the alleged globe.
No, this right angle for A is a horizontal distance measurement and a perpendicular, neither of which apply to hell. They do and only can apply to a flat plane of reference. Again, making it seem like there's an argument to have, when you can immediately spot there's a horizontal that has no bearing on the surface of a curved Earth that's been derived from these flat Earth measurements. Horizontal, linear, and perpendicular in nature.
There's no curve. There's literally no curve. It does.
No, the curve exists in the maths. At 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height measured off a flat Earth with a linear distance. All flat Earth prerequisites. Put into a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator that requires flat Earth prerequisite measurements be punched into it. Now, having spent 10 years in this arena, I can concisely and accurately summarise how flat Earth must be measured for your use of this cockwaffle to seem intelligent.
Doesn't exist. It's not real. And that terrifies a certain type of human being. I just don't feel that. And so then they'll just latch on to anything that allows them to stay in the lie. It is a lie. You have to be fucking at this point to not see that no one played golf on the moon and broke the technology and can't.
Is that your evidence? So the first thing we get to when you're talking about how the globe Earth and the curve is a lie, your standard to present that is men didn't play golf on the moon? I mean, it's all well and good describing a second law of thermodynamics violation journey through a sky vacuum that would leave us with no gas to breathe and debunking the moon landing that way because it conclusively debunks that the sky is not a vacuum. But you've just waffled on about how Earth isn't a ball. Notice how Debate earlier was talking about how people like to make themselves sound intelligent by presenting what things aren't. Now, me, I'm a much more concise individual these days. Earth's measured flat by everyone. That's the end of the statement. Now, that's an example that will prove Earth's flat because that's how it's measured, by everyone always and without exception. Going to the moon landings, after pretending that you've dealt with thousands of globe Earth arguments, only to present men on the moon not playing golf? Crap. Garbage standard.
Return. Those are the childlike lies of a psychopath, okay? That's not even close to a sophisticated lie. Not even...
First thing I can agree with. One of the very few people or individuals that we can actually call out as liars are astronauts. There definitely isn't a sky vacuum. You can't have gas pressure without containment. If the sky was a vacuum to travel through to get to the moon, then the gas we're all breathing at high pressure would fill the space. It's called entropic dispersion. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Now, this man is utilising a completely different standard because he's just waffled on about how the lie of a globe is perpetuated and then asked the question with his "I know men weren't playing golf on the moon" as his standard thereafter. See how disjointed and stupid this all sounds when I point it out and break it down?
Close. All such a low-level psychopathy. It's such low-level lies. Thinking...
Sorry, what's psychopathy? Psychopathy is what Robert Hare and the DSM's arbitrary definition by description and categorization. It's just arbitrary. Men have given these labels to other men. It means nothing. It's completely arbitrary. Like classifying different groups of animals as the same in the taxonomic classification system. Arbitrarily ascribed by men. Same with the DSM. People have ascribed traits and given them a title. In this case, psychopathy or narcissism. I don't think it means anything. It's completely arbitrary. It's made up by men. You're appealing to this. Yeah, clearly Owen Benjamin hasn't studied psychopathy or the DSM.
An abstract thought. Without commitment, you just think. Some people can't do that. Some people are incapable of abstract thought. Can't you just think?
Right, am I missing something? Somebody fill me in. Where do I need abstract thought when I apply flat Earth measurements? Or... alternatively, you as a globe believer utilise flat Earth measurements. What's that I can hear? Where are the guns, Nathan? I'll give you a flat Earth for that. We don't only measure Earth flat. Nathan's got a really good sex life. Those are the responses I get from my opponents when I point out how they require Earth be measured flat. What's this? Cock waffle from Owen Benjamin? Ugh.
Can't you just ponder?
Notice that pause? Can't you just ponder... brain fart from Owen Benjamin because he doesn't know what to tell the audience to ponder. I'll tell him, Owen Benjamin. Why don't you ponder how Earth gets measured flat? Because that's the end of any discussion or debate in the matter, isn't it? That's what you can ponder. I'll tell you without any brain fart that Owen Benjamin's demonstrating here.
I can't.
Sorry, what can't they ponder? You didn't give any descriptions of what to ponder.
Looked myself into the nature of this reality, and it is not a spinning ball.
Sorry, how do you define that explanation there, Owen Benjamin? Is it just meaningless tripe that you're just spewing out here to your audience? It seems that way to me. Anybody else disagree with what I'm saying so far?
No,
I couldn't agree more, Nathan. I mean, it just sounds, listening to these so-called, top of the fucking game flat earthers, it's just embarrassing at this point.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, Owen Benjamin, you're an embarrassment to me as a flat earther who actually knows for sure and without a doubt Earth's measured flat. I mean, you were given a few manual super chats by Big Bull Dave, and now you've gone along with his rhetoric. Just makes you kind of naive, gullible, easily influenced. Sad, really. Now you're cock-waffling to an audience. When Neil was suggesting that I'd annoy my audience, no, this is the actual person I'm talking about. These are the flat earthers that I'm referring to. Here's the example. Owen Benjamin is that example. Yeah? Cock-waffling nonsense. That's what he's actually doing. And you can hear it. I'm pointing it out as it happens. And his little brain farts as he pauses are exemplifying how he doesn't have the slightest clue what to actually give his audience to demonstrate for sure and without a doubt that Earth is flat. Me, I'll just show you the measurements that everyone uses. Then you'll know for sure and without a doubt how flat Earth is. That's how it's measured.
Every single proof they give shows it can't be. My whole...
Sorry, that was a sentence fragment. Can't be what? Every proof and evidence that they give you will start with flat Earth measurements. Repeat after me, Owen Benjamin. To suggest Earth is a sphere, you first require measurements of a flat Earth. That's something you can actually put to an audience that they could understand without you sounding like a complete numpty. That's what you can do. Point out how Earth gets measured. Not, oh, well, all the evidence they've ever given shows that Earth is not a sphere. That's just garbage. Meaningless tripe.
Whole childhood, because I have a memory. I'm not a broken sheep. I'm not a goldfish. They told me that the boat goes over the curve.
Sorry, the boat goes over the curve, eh? Where would that curve reside? Would it reside at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height off a flat Earth with parallel eye level, meaning you can't violate the axiomatic flat Earth that you need? Yeah, that would be a concise description of how Earth gets measured flat to give your description that you remember from childhood of boats going over a curve at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, measured off a flat Earth. What's the distance to the geometric horizon going to be given in? Would it be given in linear, horizontal miles? Yeah, it would, yeah. Yeah, these are axiomatic principles of Earth measurement that prove for sure and without a doubt Earth is measured flat. Know these facts.
And that's why you can only see the mass and all that. They said that. They did not say that was because the fucking light bent.
Sorry, bent light? So you think light bends? That's your explanation? They didn't tell you it's because light bends? So ignore all of the flat Earth prerequisite measurements off surface level for height, sea level as the overall axiomatic principle that's used for a general reference for a flat plane. Ignore the horizontal linear distance measurements and say it's because they didn't say light bends. Wow. Just wow. We're surrounded by wankers. Yeah, I'm looking down the barrel of my lens and calling Owen Benjamin a wanker. That's what he is, a wanker. This is the crap that we had to listen to believe Earth was flat. This is where you, if you're a victim of this crap, got your flat Earth belief. Someone like Owen Benjamin telling you it's because they didn't tell you light bends. That's the standard that you based your belief on. Well, know this. Earth's measured flat. It was really obvious. It was right in front of your nose the whole time. Owen Benjamin was just too stupid to see it. Now he's telling you it's because they didn't tell you light bends. That's the standard for proving Earth's flat, is it, Owen Benjamin? My God.
They gave me one lie, and then I said, well, I can see it now. I can zoom it in. Oh, the light bends. So it never was the curve then. It was one of the main things they said by now.
Sounds like he's understanding an argument from 5 years ago. So what, if they say refraction, it debunks their own physical geometric sphere edge horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's measured height off a flat Earth? It sounds like you're reciting the 5-year-old black swan argument given to us by Quantum Eraser. As in, if they refract it, it's not geometric. My God, it's taken 5 years for the numpty dipshits in this arena to actually catch up with this. Yeah, no shit. If it's refracted, it's not physical. Yeah, way to pick up on a flat Earth argument from 5 years ago. Meanwhile, we're pointing out that all the measurements in said equation that gives you the 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height of a flat Earth to allege there's a distance to a geometric horizon, not to be violated by refraction, would require you have a horizontal linear distance and a flat Earth prerequisite perpendicular off a flat plane to give you your height. In other words, you need to measure Earth flat to make this dumbass assertion, violated by their own rebuttal of refraction. Yeah, it is complicated, but that's the point, isn't it? if we could argue about how it's not refraction and that violates their own geometry, where's their geometry come from? Flat Earth measurements, that's where. And when you point out that their flat Earth measurements are where they begin, it's the first thing they do, that's measure Earth flat. There isn't an argument to have. You don't need to go through the black swan anymore, do you? Nope. Yeah, here's Owen Benjamin flexing his intellectual prowess 5 years down the line. Wow. Go ahead, whoever it is from G+.
No, I was just agreeing with you. That was the big trick right there, Nathan. You nailed it. Argue about refraction. You don't get into the geometry, because once you get into the geometry, you're going to see for sure and without a doubt that Earth is flat.
Yeah, exactly my point. It just ends the argument. There's no conversation there after going into refraction, bending light, and just stick to the measurements. Yeah, and it's over quite quick. Too quick sometimes, Nathan.
Yeah, that's what I'm being criticised for. You're ending this argument too quickly. We need to drag it out more. Do we? What, so if I ignore the flat Earth measurements, we can then talk about how the flat Earth measurements can be applied to a ball and how those applications of flat Earth measurements to a ball don't work? I'm not going to be doing that anymore. Yeah? I know for sure and without a doubt Earth is measured flat because everyone measures Earth flat. That's a modus ponens logical consistency, by the way. Undefeatable. You're never going to get around the facts when it comes to Earth measurement. Earth is measured flat. With that, though, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Dancing in the moonlight, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It was such a fine and natural sight. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Do 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 do. Good show.
Gonna get me a copyright strike if you do that.
Get you a copyright strike? Did you think this was your show? Did you have a feeling?
Answer me a question. If something was physical, right? Wouldn't I be able to get a measurement to it?
If you do, it'll be horizontal.
Well done.
Right, do we need to cover any more of this video? We're only halfway through it. No?
That just shocked listening to them. It's I think it would do, yeah. I mean, I'm just interested to see if we can bring anything at all to the table to do with actual measurements of flat Earth.
And then just put them at the bottom of the screen, really teeny tiny, and don't point them out.
Now completely understand how that illusion works. The technology has outpaced the lie. With a P900 camera, you can zoom in and you...
I haven't watched this. I was bang on. Yeah, it's people flexing their intellectual prowess. I can use a camera. Look how the technology is amazing. And I can... No. Just sniffing your own farts here, Owen Benjamin.
See it plain as day. 50 miles away. No curve whatsoever. Oh, the light...
50 miles away? What, horizontal linear distance measurement? Yeah, you're just sniffing your own farts and ignoring the flat Earth prerequisites that you're detailing but not highlighting. Isn't that sad?
Light bends. It's an optical, the light bends. No, when I was a kid, you never said the fucking light bent. You said that was the curve. Well, now, so in the 19...
Yeah, Black Swan, it's 5 years out of date now. We can point out that the calculations plugged into the calculator are flat.
90s, you didn't know? So show me where you guys learn.
Now you're putting the onus on them. So show me. No, you don't need to ask them to show you anything. If you understand for sure and without a doubt Earth's flat, why would you be asking them for anything? I'm not asking anybody for anything. I'm telling them. You're using flat Earth measurements, so aren't you? 50k in this, or 50 miles in this instance. So that's it. That's the end of the discussion. There wasn't one.
Yeah, he's not in the authoritative position that we're in.
No, he's kowtowed to Big Ball Dave Weiss giving him manual super chats.
Learned that it wasn't a curve, that it's actually because the light bends. Like, it's like when you call out finance or whatever. Finance. You're crazy. You're insane.
Here we go. Now he's going to segue onto something that's completely unrelated about finance, isn't he? So a bit like debate talking about 9/11 truth or JFK or Mandela effect or clone centres or melting buildings or whatever other shite that we get. Now we're talking about finance. What, because you've reached the limit of your understanding of this subject? So you've got to segue onto some other shite to make you sound like an idiot.
Hey, you're crazy. You should be in a mental institution. Why? Everything that we see looks like we're on a flat, not moving plane.
It's measured that way. Doesn't matter how it looks.
All ancient religions think we're on a, including Christianity.
What does it matter what they think? I'm not here to exercise my thoughts on the matter. We've got measurements. It's flat.
Believes we're on a flat, not moving.
Yeah, that's the problem. Belief. You don't need to believe you're on a flat plane if you know it for sure and without a doubt based on the measurements everybody's using.
Plane. So I have to trust the people telling me we're not. And
No, they use flat earth measurements too, if you just didn't notice them.
And they have to have an argument that makes logical sense.
No, they don't. There's no logic to be applied to measurements. They're just measurements.
Which they don't, and they never have.
Yeah, that was the game. Make it seem like there's a logical argument to be had. How I have got better logic and better mental capacity than you who hasn't studied it. That's the game. So then it's you versus them. Agree with them. Yeah, I agree with your measurements of a flat earth. See how quickly they piss their pants when you're agreeing with them. Yeah, all right, no, I agree with you, ball believers. You're measuring a flat earth there, Toon. See what happens. They go nuts.
Yep.
Yeah, let me give you a little scenario. So, you're measuring a flat earth there, Toon, with elevation angles. Where are the guns, Nathan? You lied! They go nuts. That's what they do.
And it's the reaction shows the lie.
No, the measurements make them go nuts. Like, I point out how they are measuring flat earth, and they'll talk through that fact that they've had, and I kid you not, in this case, McToon has had the fact he's measured earth flat 100 times put to him by me, personally. Yeah? Not once has he ever been able to respond to it. When he got it verbally, for the 100th time, literally, I'm not just making those numbers up, I counted them. When he got it for the 100th time, the response to "you're measuring Earth flat with elevation angles," that's elevation, the surface. That's what gives you elevation off the ground. Angle, two straight lines meeting at a vertex. When I point out that Toon's measuring Earth flat, his response was to yell my name into the frickin' snow about guns not being there. That's what they do. There's no argument to be had, just insanity that ensues after their own flat Earth measurements are pointed out to them.
They're so stupid. They're so crazy. You make yourself look really dumb when you say that. I'm like,
no, that's not what I got. I got, where are the guns, Nathan? Or, well, I'll give you a flat Earth for that. Or, well, we don't only measure Earth flat. Or, you've got a really good sex life. That's what I got as responses. Not laughing and told that I was stupid. I was told I had a good sex life.
of all the things that makes you react with such vitriol.
I don't know if you'd call it vitriol. Where are the guns? That's not really vitriol. It's more of a subversion away from the fact that the person I was talking to measured Earth flat. Being told that, well, I'll give you a flat Earth for that is an unequivocal concession to the Earth that's being measured flat by that person. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. They're not being called stupid. Because if they call me stupid when I point out how they are measuring Earth, they're calling their own measurement stupid. So they don't do that. They just go bonkers.
Ego, intensity. It shouldn't matter at all to people. Oh, it just makes you sound totally insane. No, that reaction showed me that there's truth to it. What's seen as crazy is just looking around and saying, okay, my eyes tell me this is not a curve. Wouldn't someone...
My eyes tell me what this isn't. My eyes tell me that the Earth is not a roast chicken. What a wonderful standard. I look around and realise that it's not a giant blancmange. Wow, what a fantastic revelation.
Trust their eyes and their ears and their hands.
No, trust the measurements. Don't just trust your eyes. What's that going to tell you?
Hands and their nodes and their mouth and their logic. I go up in a plane.
Up? What, perpendicular to a plane of reference measured with altitude? In a plane that's going to fly straight and level? Let's see if he references level flight parallel with surface level and sea level measured with an altimeter, or the pitch nose up with respect to horizontal. Or the ascent measured with gyros? Or descent? Well, let's see if he measures anything in his next sentence.
I don't see a curve. They go up.
Oh, you don't see a curve, eh, wanker? What a dipshit. Owen Benjamin, you are a cretin and a waste of space. Why are you even here when there's people like me around talking about how Earth gets measured with 5 different examples with the use of an aeroplane? And you can only look out the window and say, don't look curved to me. You're a waste of space.
120,000 feet. I don't see a curve. I see fisheye lenses.
Sorry, 120,000 feet? What's that measured off there, Owen Benjamin? Was it right before your very eyes and you didn't even notice? How do we measure 120,000 feet? Off sea level, perpendicular to a plane, maintained in flight level, parallel with the ground, using triangles for trig for descent. That's what we're doing when we measure Earth flat for flight level, when we measure our altitude off sea level or surface level with altimeters. The measurement you gave was a flat Earth prerequisite, but you're talking about looking out the window at a certain height. You can't see the wood for the trees, can you, man? But yet you're here with the biggest name over your head talking about flat Earth like you've got something to offer. You haven't.
Okay, I can do math. I can do.
Can you? Really? What was 120,000 feet measured off? You're not going to mention that because you don't know.
Experiments with a P900.
Experiment with a P900? What a wanker. You think you're doing experiments with a man-made device like a camera? No. An experiment would be the assertion of cause of a naturally occurring phenomena based on a hypothesis. That's what an experiment is. Not using a camera. Way to apply the Patricia Steer standard of experimentation to your little toy camera.
Camera? I don't think it looks like a spinning ball.
Oh, well, I mean, let's all pack up and go home. You've used a camera and you don't think it looks like a ball? Well, that's good enough for me, man. Let's all go home. What a cretin.
Okay, I have to trust scientists, and I...
No, we're not using science when we describe 120,000 feet measured off a flat plane and sea level. That's not science. Don't talk about science anymore, Owen Benjamin. You're just pissing me off.
know they're lying. They lie all the time. Their information keeps coming back false.
What's the lie? 120,000 feet? You didn't give an alternative. You only gave 120,000 feet. It was the only measurement you've described in the last 20 seconds. So what's the alternative? Where's the lie? 120,000 feet's a flat Earth measurement.
Snipers have to factor in the Coriolis effect. No, they don't. I'm friends with a ton of snipers. Most snipers I know are flat earthers. There's nothing...
So you're going to prove that? Present 3 of them. Now. Edit to the next bit where he's talking. That's a baseless assertion fallacy. Yeah, I need to see 3 snipers disclaiming that they know for sure and without a doubt Earth is flat, and then them giving their standard based on the measurements. Let's see if we get that from Owen Benjamin.
In the cockpit that factors in the curve of the Earth. Zero.
Right. In the cockpit, they don't factor in the curve. Again, back to the Eric DeBay pointing out that people want to seem intellectually superior by presenting what they say things aren't. They don't factor in curve. What do they do? They measure their height off a flat plane with 120,000 feet being your description earlier. Perpendicular elevation. What's that? Straight and level flight? You haven't mentioned any of this stuff, have you? Flying in level flight, parallel to the ground, measured with an altimeter, nose up with respect to horizontal. Those are the measurements of Earth. Is it getting a mention? No. They don't measure curve. And what do they measure then, man?
Zero, nothing. But what about satellites?
So he's not. He's moving on to satellites. So he doesn't know, does he? He hasn't got the vaguest idea why Earth's flat, has he? He's a flat Earth believer. Doesn't know. This man does not know Earth is flat. He just believes it. Because they apparently don't measure curve from a cockpit. Oh, really? How do you know what they're not measuring? That seems like a stupid statement. Just a flat Earth believer.
Satellites are bullshit. Why do you...
Like, what?
You lose cell connection in a valley? Well...
Sorry, what's that got to do with anything? What about how the valley was measured with rise over run? with respect to a horizontal plane of reference to give you how low things are with respect to sea level or how high things are with respect to sea level. That's rise over run measurements. But you're talking about whether or not you get phone reception in a valley. This is the shitest standard ever.
Cell connections from cell towers, not cell.
Shit. This is a garbage standard, Owen Benjamin. What are you doing here? You're a waste of space. You got your information from a clown called Dave Weiss. That's why you're spouting this shit, because you haven't got a clue about how to actually apply flat Earth prerequisite measurements for the depth of the valley or the height of the mountain. You're talking about phone reception as a standard for flat Earth proof. What a wanker.
They triangulated it. If you could make a fucking phone call from the moon in 1969, why do I lose reception on my property based on mountains?
That's a fantastic question, Proof. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, oh my God. I mean, I'm cringing listening to this.
Yeah, it's cringeworthy. Now, to be fair, right, let's just backtrack a little bit, right? Owen Benjamin, it's not your fault. Yeah, you fell victim to numpty dipshits like Dave Weiss, who didn't do due diligence, didn't do any research, didn't keep up to date with the flat Earth debate, and don't know what they're talking about. Now you are parroting their crap that doesn't prove a thing. And you sound stupid for it. That's why I'm able to look down the barrel of this camera and call you stupid, because that's how you sound. There's no disputing it. You're not proving anything. Hence, stupid when it comes to evidencing a flat Earth that we're measuring. For example, with 120,000 feet measured perpendicular to a plane of reference. That's what up, height, altitude, elevation is, if you're going to apply a measurement to it. These are axiomatic flat Earth principles attached to them, and you're whistling straight past them. Now, that's not your fault that you were too stupid to notice. I was too stupid to notice. Everyone was too stupid to notice. The only person on this panel that's got claim to I was the first to notice is refracted curvature. Not only did he notice, he started taking the piss out of people immediately by accepting every single standard they ever put down as an evidence for a ball, because he knew damn well from the outset that he'd require a flat Earth to explain their standards of ball evidence that were put to him. Very smart. But ultimately speaking, John too, and I'm sure he'll agree, didn't spot it immediately or it'd never been a baller.
Huh? Doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, they can't explain it without just going, well, the satellite beams it down to the tower, and then the tower will broadcast, and then, no, or it's just...
A down is also perpendicular to a plane of reference. You're talking about an orientation that only can be described from a flat Earth if you're talking about anything that's measurable with respect to Earth. So down, you're going to need a flat Earth for that. It's one of those words that you can only use on a flat Earth. Balls have in and out if you want to put it in full comparison, which you don't need to because they'll have already used a flat Earth prerequisite before you get there. But for us, the word down is axiomatically tied to a flat Earth.
Towers. Why don't more satellites get hit by space junk?
What, in a sky vacuum that doesn't exist? Yeah, again, listening to Dave Weiss too much, where you can simultaneously hold the idea of satellites existing to question whether or not they'll get hit by junk in a sky vacuum. There is no sky vacuum.
The amount of space junk, the amount of just anything in orbit.
There is no outer space. Sky vacuum's not real, so when you say the amount of space junk, you're simultaneously holding true their lies to debunk their lies. It's a garbage standard.
Screws, anything.
Yeah, this was part of the game. You know, if we can argue about how rockets don't work in a sky vacuum, you simultaneously hold true the notion of our sky vacuum to argue our sky vacuum won't work. It's in defiance of a law of nature. Entropic dispersion. The second law of thermodynamics dictates that the gas would fill the space. You're saying space junk would hit satellites in.
One of those things going 10,000 miles an hour, that's...
Of course, because the thing's going 10,000 miles an hour. That's a linear distance measurement over time. So you need a flat Earth for these miles per hour.
Way faster than any bullet. And if it just grazes a satellite, that satellite will need to be repaired. How do you bring it to Earth? How do you crash it to Earth? And you set up another one? How often does that happen? How many times do we have to replace the satellite since the cold...
It's just garbage, isn't it? This doesn't prove anything. So what he's got on screen is a picture of a balloon satellite. Okay, so we know for sure and without a doubt that balloon satellites have crashed into the ground. Okay, so we've got balloon satellites. Well done. Also, not in a sky vacuum. Yeah, we already knew that.
Cold War. None? This is the problem with psychopathic liars. They'll say a lie to sell one thing, to get something, and then they'll sell a contradictory lie to get something else. And then when you, the non-psychopath, says, well, how can those two things exist simultaneously? Like they said that the Earth is surrounded by space junk, that tens of thousands of miles an hour, there's little screws and doodads flying everywhere. Okay, so then how is there the ISS then?
This is garbage. Question proofs.
I don't think there's one grain of space junk up there because I don't believe...
Up where? Up is perpendicular to a plane of reference. There is a sky vacuum that violates natural law.
Orbits. So I think that...
Orbits? That's a derivation of flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements to derive radial values for Kepler to put into orbital motion, scaled by Huygens. So again, if you had the slightest clue about how this deception actually worked, you'd have looked into what an orbit was and know that Earth was measured flat to create that notion.
There's things in the sky moving over us? Yes. Yes, I do. They had drones, balloons, huge network up there. But do I think...
Up, perpendicular to a plane of reference, keeps using these flat Earth prerequisites that are actually a very good standard to prove how Earth is described, flat, for this up. But no, it's whether or not space junk's going to hit them. Up there. You can only have up off a flat Earth.
They're going 15,000 miles an hour, so they fall with the gravity of the Earth, and they...
Gravity. If you've got a 100 and almost 11 year out of date Newtonian vector, that's down, again, with respect to a plane of reference. Now, gas behaviour debunks the 111 year out of date Newtonian gravity. But the current hotness of bent space-time is a concept of a fourth dimensional time dimension bending. It's complete nonsense.
They stay there for decades without needing any maintenance or running into space junk or any particles and destroying them. And their fragile tech just keeps working and broadcasting things. No, of course not.
Not everybody can be a robot polisher.
Do you think that in 1969 they landed on the moon and played golf? Do you believe that? Why wouldn't you question more of the things they said? Why would you believe anything else they say? Especially when you can identify...
Now that he's reified a globe and in everybody's mind, I mean, that's all I'm hearing is globe stuff. Where's the flat Earth stuff?
I don't know. It's never going to come.
Gaslighting.
Here we are again. We're going to have a flat Earth prerequisite on screen with a distance measurement. It won't even get highlighted. Mark words, no one's going to point out that this is a flat Earth prerequisite. Let's see if I'm right. Camera position. Okay, so that's going to have its height measured off surface level. Horizontal linear distance measurement. Oh, water tower. Again, on a plane giving its height with respect to surface level. Distance, 16.15 miles. Off a flat plane, horizontal and linear in nature. Cut to the globe without pointing that out. This is sad. Very irritating.
We'll accept the deception happily, but what they're doing to us all is a tragedy. God created the heavens and the...
Yeah. Distance to object, flat Earth proof. Eyesight level, flat Earth proof. Distance to horizon, in requirement of parallel eye level and surface level and height off a flat Earth. My God, none of it's getting pointed out. It's all just put up in false dichotomy by John Thor. Should have moved past this ages ago, really. We should have spotted it ages ago. We didn't. Right, let's just see what else he puts up. I'll have to turn down his music. I don't want this video being demonetized. I think that's it, though. Expected result. So the calculator dictates what we expect to see, does it? No, it doesn't. Our eyeballs see what they see. The distance measurements will be flat.
Expected results?
Yeah.
Really?
What he's saying is this is what we should see. The ball says we'll see this much obscured. Infuriating. Not an expected result. It's utilization of a begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, which requires flat Earth prerequisite elevation and distance measurement be punched into it. Not that they'll get highlighted, they'll get put on screen in tiny little letters in a minute without any acknowledgement of how flat Earth must be for these measurements. And then we'll get told that we expect to see it blocked.
You just hope to wish that, you know, I mean, I've put a comment on a video, I hope everybody else does, that they come and watch this show and listen, because it's been nice to listen to. It's been very calm, and the points have come across quite clearly, what you're pointing out. Now, if they was just to listen to that and the penny drops, they should just think, God, why are we so behind? Have you heard what Nathan's saying and the guys? These are all, the actual the Earth curve calculator is proof of a flat Earth.
Yeah.
How did we miss this?
Yeah.
That's what they should say, but they're not. They're getting, why is Nathan ending the argument so quickly? He's not even explaining anything. It just ends the argument. I mean, what's the point? So you mean to tell me that if you take an elevation angle to Polaris,
you see, that's where I'd say stop.
It's a flat plane of reference.
So that's where I'd say stop, wouldn't it be,
flat?
Neil? I'd cut you off, as I am doing, because we've had this discussion, and say, so when we take a flat Earth measurement, it's just stop you right there. What? I'm just going to stop you right there. When we take a flat Earth elevation angle measurement, yeah, that's the end. I don't need to do anything else. Oh, well, I needed to explain how smart I am when I apply this flat Earth measurement to something. No, fuck off.
Yeah, but when you take an elevation angle to Polaris, Nathan, you're saying that Earth is flat because it's a horizontal plane? Is that what you're saying?
I don't need to, do I? It is.
Nope, you don't have to say anything. It's just the fact of the matter.
Right, I think that's it. I think it's just going to repeat the same observation demonstration a few times with this P1000.
Yeah, we've heard it, haven't we? It's just years out of date, and they just need to catch up on the flat Earth. Not a debate.
We should start asking them, why do you expect to see something other than what you're seeing now? Like, what do you expect to see, and why? Well, because on a globe, right there, that's it.
It's almost like they're hanging on to the notion that it could be a ball.
Exactly.
And inviting somebody else to say, well, no, you're wrong because here's my example. Let's debate. But obviously, none of us can point out that we're both using flat Earth measurements. I mean, that would be just too quick an outcome. Let's both apply them to different models, flat Earth measurements, that is, and then see which one works out best. And then we can argue about it all day long.
Yeah, they had to keep that hidden, Nathan. Think about it. They had to keep that hidden because if that's the case, once you point out to anybody who's honestly seeking what's going on or into this topic, they're going to see right away, holy shoot, you're right. It's a flat plane.
Right, is there anything else? I'm going to round out if not.
Nope, all good.
Right, with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.